crypto bleeding towards the downside. Bitcoin is dumping lower and lower. Is it a time that we should be cutting our losses and running from the markets, or should we be able to find some decent entries? In this video, I'm going to address the real reasons as to why Bitcoin is falling right now and identify some areas that we could see Bitcoin taking significant bounce. I'm also going to talk about how we can find perfect entry positions so that we can be prepared and ready to buy when the time is right and maximize our opportunity to buy the right coins at the right time. Also, if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to talk about some coins that I'm buying right now. So do me a favor, hit that like button. And let's get into today's video. Now guys, as I look at it right now, Tuesday evening my time, Bitcoin is hovering around $63,000. And as you look at it right now, it's showing no sign of sort of bouncing towards the upside. And there's a major reason we're seeing some of the blood in the streets right now, and it's because the first net outflow of $154 million has been seen in ETFs for the first time since the start of March. And that's no surprise because we find Bitcoin above all-time high and people have unsurprisingly been taking profit, while retail has been FOMOing in because of the news stories surrounding Cathie Wood, Donald Trump, Jamie Dimon, etc., which I talked about in a video I made just a couple of days ago. Now, as we look at this rather confusing and complex looking chart, let me just break it down for you. You can see that there has been some outflows happening on the 18th of March, when over the last couple of weeks, we've just seen these black numbers here showing that money is coming into the market. The red numbers, obviously, money is going out of the market. And most of that money, as you can see, is coming out of Grayscale. But interestingly, a lot of the money is then flowing back in, BlackRock buying up aggressively. So potentially this means that this could be a very short-lived little dip towards the downside, but not guaranteed. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about before we dive in and find out how exactly to identify the exact time to be buying and which coins I'm very excited about maybe buying right now. And that is this. If a chart like this scares you, this is Bitcoin, but any other coin that you're in and you're like, oh my God, I'm really not in the position right now to be losing $140 or $1,000 or $100,000, whatever that number might be to you. If you're not in the position to be losing that money right now, then I don't want to be that boring guy, but you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt, okay? Remember, this is a bull market, which means over a longer period of time, we will see general upside. But within that period of time, you could see significant downside. And I know it would be nice if every day it just went up in a straight line and then suddenly there was an announcement saying to everyone, well, why don't you sell now? And if that was the case, we'd all be super rich and life would be good, right? But unfortunately, someone needs to lose for us to actually make money, okay? Now, if we look into the bull market, the last bull market for Bitcoin, you can see that there was a very sustained kind of strong push towards the upside before a very significant sell-off, which happened from the Thursday, the 7th of January, and it ran up until the 29th of January. So for a whole month, it was down 30%. And I would imagine there was a few crypto moon boys having to find themselves new accommodation by the end of that month. And the reason we don't want to be in that position, guys, is because it then forces us to play a hand that we don't really want to play. We don't want to be selling into this market right now, because the market's already dipped down. And typically when you end up panic selling, the next day you wake up and it's going to be up against you and you're going to be like, oh, really gutted, okay? The same as we shouldn't panic buy the big pumps, we shouldn't panic sell the big dumps. Even though our brain is going crazy right now, we're like, I had a lot more money yesterday than I do now. And that is very much true for me, okay? I'm about 80 or 90% in on crypto right now, okay? That 10% is kind of remaining to be able to buy dips when I see fit. So you better believe that this dip has hit me as well. And obviously I still get those emotions, but I need to kind of be a little bit more controlled. And fortunately, because I've kind of seen this before, I can control myself better. As long as you're not using money that you can't afford to lose, then now we're in a good position to kind of make the most of these markets. Now I want to show you something. This is a weekly chart for Bitcoin. This is, we're leading up to something important, but I just want to calm the nerves for everyone. This was the top of the bull market in 2017. See, it has a nice dip. And then as we run into this same area again, you can see that for 1 week, Bitcoin got rejected kind of here. It then dumped down around 18%. We then kind of pushed back up into it. It then has another dump down. Okay. For a month, it got stuck under here. And then eventually it rips out. Okay. So during this period of time, we've actually got a little bit of an opportunity, a little window, shall we say, do some research and get keen. And look, this was the last all-time high. Up here, 68,000, just under $69,000. Look, we've literally broken up through, found huge resistance, and now we're starting to push down. How much lower does this go? Well, it's anyone's guess, but we can identify some areas at which it might get to. And maybe by the time tomorrow hits and this video goes live, Bitcoin's already above 70k, in which case, fine. But this is still important because we're going to understand how we can get good entries anyway. Now, this is a rather bearish looking pattern for Bitcoin. You can see we have a shoulder here, a head here, and like some form of another shoulder. This is a head and shoulders pattern, which typically has a breakout or breakdown target somewhere around this kind of 53k level. Doesn't mean it's going to get there. Who knows, right? Now, what we can see is on the way up, Bitcoin has a few kind of key areas to pay attention to. What are these key areas? Let me just clear off the chart so we can start afresh and you can maybe see what I'm talking about. I want you to just put maybe a 4-hour chart. Okay, 4 hours means that each of these candles is 4 hours. What we're looking for, and now my chart is black and white, okay, so the black ones go up, white ones go down. If you're using green and red, or blue and yellow, or whatever, same, okay? The big black ones here, the big bullish candles, show very big, very aggressive buying. Look here and try and find the biggest candles. I'm going to say this is one of them. I would say this is another one of them, and I would say probably this one here is another very big candle. Now what we want to do is draw some boxes across where the bottom of these candles originate. And we can go down, we can keep drawing these candles on. And, you know, where does this originate? Probably from this area down here, okay? Now, why is this important? Well, because in these periods of time, bearing in mind Bitcoin is like $1 trillion market cap coin, okay? Or at the time of making this video, $1.2 trillion in market cap, pretty bloody big. It means that this move, which is like 5% would be like $60 billion. A $60 billion buy-in happened in that 1 4-hour period. If we go back to the other one, you can see who's got $60 billion to just go and throw into Bitcoin at these levels. What does that mean for us? It means that when it returns into that zone, there's a good chance those people who were prepared to buy at 50-60 billion before might well do it again. So what we can do is we draw these green boxes on and we anticipate that maybe, just maybe, we see a bounce in these areas. So where's Bitcoin going to drop to? Right now I've got Bitcoin 63k. We're seeing not a lot in terms of any kind of resistance. We can dip down to 15 minutes. It does look like it's going to see some form of continuation. It might dip even further down and then kind of have a good bounce. But by drawing this on the chart, I don't feel so helpless anymore because I've identified some areas at which Bitcoin has a good chance of bouncing from. You can see that last time it dipped into this area really hard and then it bounced hard from it. So what does that mean for me? Well, it tells me that if Bitcoin gets into this area, then maybe down here, I want to set a buy position for Bitcoin or any other coin out there. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. And I want to show you this example on ICP. You can go and look at any chart, guys. It works in the same concept. Now, let me use an example, okay? I'm going to use my mum for this example, and I'm going to use a supermarket. She typically likes to do her shopping at Sainsbury's, but there are obviously other supermarkets available in the UK. Now, she knows I'm particularly keen on a certain type of apple called a pink lady. And when I was growing up, I was obviously like, Mum, you know, please can I have the pink ladies? You know, other apples don't cut it. But the problem is, the pink lady is a slightly more premium apple in the UK, and when it's at a normal price, my mum typically wouldn't want to buy it, which meant that I would only get these pink ladies when they were at a certain discounted price. Do you see where I'm going with this? ICP here represents pink ladies at, I don't know, 6 for £2 or whatever they used to cost. I have no idea right now. Probably used to cost less than they do now, thanks to brutal inflation. And, you know, every time the apples are priced up here, my mum's not going to buy them. But eventually there's some kind of other apples and things about, everyone's buying other apples, and the demand for pink lady apples, and suddenly it's the right time of year, and loads of pink lady apples arrive on the scene, and there's loads available. The supply and demand models tilt, and the apples, they suddenly go to £1.80, which is like down here, and my mum's like, well, you know, Peter loves those apples, so how about I get him some, you know, bit of a treat. And this is pretty much exactly the same. But instead of this, replace the word pink lady apple with ICP tokens and replace my mum with institutional buyers, banks, wealth managers, etc. So which means that if the price hits the buy zone, it's going to automatically trigger some massive buying pressure. Here we go. What happens? We can see that when the price dips into here, suddenly it triggers a bunch of big buys, because remember we had big buys coming in before, and then suddenly we get this. The price then goes off all the way up to the upside. Now, how did I identify that this is a buy zone? Now, let's say we're looking at this ICP chart here and we're like, well, you know, I like the look of ICP right now. I wish I could get in, but I've kind of missed my chance. And on the way up, what we want to be doing is starting to put down our buy zones, okay? We don't even know whether it's going to get back to these at any point, but eventually it will start to show some indication that it will make a pullback at some point, okay? How do I know? Well, look for the big candles and look for a bit of sideways action before. If we go to like a 15-minute, you can see some very interesting things happening here. You can see big buy, dips, big buy. So it means the selling pressures are small and people were trying to fill an order just waiting for it to fill up, okay? Let's go back out to the 4 hours, and you can see there's a bit of confirmation because this did wick down as that area and it bounced. So what we can draw is this box here. Now we go down again and we say, well, there was another bit of sideways action again before a big pump towards the upside. And you can just keep going down and drawing these boxes on as we go lower and lower, and then anticipate what would happen. Now, it could just continue and continue, but eventually it's going to have a sideways move. And then we have to draw our buy zone in this area up here. And what we're doing here is we're being very methodical. We're not acting on impulse or emotion because we already are planning our entry without entering on a whim. And this way, when everyone else is out there panicking because the charts are falling towards the downside and they've all wanting to be buying on these pumps, we're happy right now because we just know exactly where our buy zones are. And maybe I've set aside $100 to buy ICP, and I could have said I was going to put in $50 here, and $25 down here and $25 down here if I was more risk averse, if I was more like willing to take the risk and I could be like in the game and take some downside. Maybe I'd say $75 at this level, $25 at that level if I get really lucky. And then if it gets down to there, then maybe I'm selling something else to buy it. Now there's two things you can do here. Either you can right click and create the alert, which I've probably told you about before. So literally right click. This is tradingview.com. It's free. And it will say add alert, but because I'm in replay mode, okay, you can't do that, okay? So just assume that it says add alert. You can do that on a live chart very simply. And that means that when it hits that zone, I've then got to go and manually buy that token. Or I can do something else, which is actually what I do and allows me to completely dissociate myself from the emotions of this, because even when it's falling, I'm always like, oh, I don't want to do it. You can go to Bitunix, which is linked down below, guys. No KYC, no VPN. That means if you're in the US or any other country, you can go and trade on this exchange without having to register your details or anything. One of the cheapest, has some of the best, but has liquidity provided by Binance. Now, it's a new platform. They're onboarding new tokens all the time, but all of the major tokens are available there. Now, let's say, for example, we can see it actually happening live right now. You can see Bitcoin getting bought up in this green box, okay? Not saying that it's going to bounce 100% from here. Who knows? Maybe it continues higher. But let's say $63,300. Let's say I think that maybe if Bitcoin gets down to $60,987, I want to buy in $50 or whatever. Okay, so I can go back to my Bitunix account. And then I can make sure I'm on spot Bitcoin USDT. I can come down to where it says limit order. I just go back and check that price for Bitcoin. What was it? Let's just say 60,000 to make it easy, shall we? And I can say that I want to buy Bitcoin should the price reach $60,000. Okay, order price $60,000. And you can see that I've got $500 here. You can see at the bottom I can drag it. Let's say I want to buy $50 should it reach that level. Now what I do is I click buy Bitcoin, and now my trade is live. Now I can go away, and if Bitcoin happens to wick down to that point, then happy days, I'm in the market, but I didn't have to deal with any of the emotions or anything like that. Super easy thing to do and is really important. You can do it from Bitunix, you can do it through any other exchange, which is all linked down below, guys. Really easy to find. Really, this is the way I'm basically trading right now to avoid impulse trading, because that is the enemy of absolutely everyone in these markets. Now, guys, let's talk about some interesting coins that, you know, have been the talk of the town recently. Solana, I talked about in a video yesterday saying that over $200, I was expecting a good pullback. I didn't expect such a brutal pullback as this, but it's all good. Now, what we want to remember right now is where are the prices of the apples good for us to be eating? Solana, where do people want to buy apples? Okay, big candle. Here, another one, big candle here, another one, big candle here. Okay, can you see the difference between like these candles and the others? It's also important to know what happens just before those candles is we have a bit of a dip, bit of sideways, and then big buy, bit of a sideways dip buy, bit of a sideways dip buy. Okay, it's very easy to identify these. Get yourself a rectangle. You can make it whatever color you wish. Drag it across the bottom of where that big candle originated from. You can make it bigger. So we got like the sort of sideways zone here if you wish. I tend to just leave it down the bottoms. And what we can do is we can have another one down here. And we can have another one down here. And there you have it, guys. So for Solana, these are my buy zones. Obviously, we've already got through one of them. And I failed because I sold literally at 200 bucks. I moved a lot to optimism, which has actually not worked out particularly well for me, but fine. And you can see these are kind of, I'm just drawing these red ones. You can see the prices, okay? If you are so willing. I'm not telling you to buy in these zones, not financial advice. Go and do your own thing. Just showing you how we can identify areas we might see a strong bounce in. And you can see, if it continues to fall, just look for the areas. We continue to fall, we work out where it might go to. Okay? But I guarantee, even if you go all in on this green box, you're so much happier going all in on this green box, even if it goes down to this level, because then by 137, you're down 23%, rather than if you aped in at the top, thinking you might miss out on Solana, being down like 34%. Okay? So this is an easier way to remain calm, not pull your hair out, etc. What else we got? Render. Render, you can see, is basically looking rather on the bearish side right now. Why is it bearish? Well, because it put in these highs. You can see it then pushed up and squeezed up higher and higher and then got rejected pretty hard. But you could say there's still buy zone opportunities. If you stick to this rule, okay, you can see from this sort of area here, you can see, look, just from this big candle down here, these big candles, look what happens. The price is arriving back into this zone. Look at the wicks towards the downside. This shows there's buying pressure. Now, you can either automatically set it or you can wait for something to show like this. Okay, these candles are clearly trying to sell into this area, but they're getting chewed up. All the buyers are rushing in. That's bullish, okay? I'm not saying it can't go lower, but that looks bullish. Where's the next one for render? Another one sort of in this area. I mean, you could go down even lower if you wanted to. Somewhere around this kind of area, you got some big candles coming out of here. You know, what's that? Somewhere around $7. I think that's ambitious. Up here, somewhere around $9.30. $10. I mean, it's pretty good value. It's already fallen like 21%. At some point, it was down 25%. Still within this zone, I think maybe we could get to around $10.15. That would be pretty handy. You know, if you want to be even more cautious, you can wait for the second bite of the cherry, although it doesn't always come. This is Sol Phantasma. We can see on the way up, there were some big candles, okay, that we saw coming in. Up here, we've got some big ones. Down here, more big ones, more big ones. Look, big sideways action, followed by a big candle. So typically, if you can find a bit of sideways action followed by a big candle, you might find something interesting. Now we can see, literally as we speak, we can take this green box, run it across. You can see what happened last time. Sol Phantasma ended up in this big box. We had a very big push out of it in the region of 28% in 8 hours. Okay, look at it's trying to dip into this zone again. It has just dipped below. And actually, it's not always a bad thing if it dips below. I hadn't even thought about Sol Phantasma, okay? I'm just looking down through the list. It is a coin I'm interested in. I didn't want to get in so much on this kind of big pump towards the upside. I had been kind of getting in a little bit right now. You know, maybe that's an interesting one, and this green box could be potentially of interest. ICP, a big favorite of many. Do we have a buy zone we can find here? Well, look at where the price is right now after this big dump. And you can see some interesting indicators, okay? Look at this wick to this zone. It shows where the sells happen and then suddenly it gets bought up. It can't carry on lower. It goes higher. Okay. This is originating. So we have what? Big candles. Big candles from roughly the same area. Crazy dump and then pump. Okay. Happens again with dumping into this zone. ICP right now. Interesting zone of action. Where's the next one down? Probably around this area. Probably around $9.40. How do we know? Look. This was big candles. Came from a second buy zone area. This dips into the zone. Look at it. It rips out of it. Come across. If it gets down here again, I'm very happy. If it stops here, maybe still not a bad opportunity, depending on those kind of risk factors that we're playing with. AGIX. Okay, bit of sideways action. Big pump. Dipping into this area. You can see these wicks coming in now, showing buying pressure. Does it guarantee that it's not going to go lower? Absolutely not. You can't guarantee whether it's going to go lower, whether it's going to go higher. Stop trying to control the charts, because no matter how hard you stare at that price and, you know, will it to go higher and stop going down, then it doesn't work. I've tried with all of my special powers and I've not been able to control the markets yet. All I can control is when I get in and when I get out. And I need to have a plan so that if this happens or that happens, I'm happy, okay? If, for example, here I had like a $50 of my $100 in the trade and it suddenly goes and I wake up tomorrow and it's up here, I'm still happy because my $50 is now up 59%. So I'm up like $26 and I've still got $50 to play with, which I can go and invest in another coin. I didn't miss anything, okay? And if it does dip further down into here, I'm still happy because now I get more apples at a better price because the overall trajectory is bull market. Guys, I hope that makes sense. Whew. If you want more of this, okay, if you want more of knowing how to get into different coins, and what I'm teaching you right now isn't what coins to be getting into and what coins to be buying. I'm just showing you this principle can be applied to every coin. And no, this coin is not different and that coin is not different. They're all the same. They all work at this level. Big money will buy at a value they see fit for X coin or Y coin. You just want to know the patterns and see how they're trading, and it makes life very much easier. Now, I'm pleased to say that today's video is in partnership with My Lovely Planet, a project I've been speaking about on the channel for the last few weeks and is about to finish its pre-sale. Now, I'll talk about how you can get into a pre-sale in a minute, but why do I love this? Well, it's a very cool game which I've actually been playing on my phone. But more importantly, the developers who created My Lovely Planet's game came from Candy Crush and also came from Battle Royale. These are two games that have made over $1 billion revenue in just a single year. My Lovely Planet is funded by Ubisoft and Unity, two of the biggest names in gaming, and they already have over 30,000 downloads on the App Store. Now, why I was so willing to partner with this game was not only that they're backed by some of the biggest names in gaming and they have a killer team, but also because they're working to help the environment. This is something that has enabled them to onboard players into the game at a cost of around 1/10 of that of Candy Crush. And that is crazy, because if this game goes and gets itself 100 million users or 1 billion users, you can only imagine how big a project like this could go. Now, basically the concept is if you plant trees in the game, they'll go and plant trees in real life. They're also working to remove 1 million tons of plastic from the ocean and protect biodiversity, which is something I'm passionate about. I think as well, a lot of people can get behind, and it makes it a potentially very interesting opportunity. Not only that, it's in mobile phone games, which have a much bigger potential audience than computers, etc. Now, if you want to enter the pre-sale, you can currently get the token around 9.2 cents, which is 8% under the launch price, which is happening in April, just a few weeks away. Now, if you use the code HOUSEOFCRYPTO, you'll also get an additional 10% of tokens, which means that you get more like 20% extra for your actual price paid. Now, after doing research, if you're interested in getting into this token, then all you need to do is go and click on buy now. It will take you through to the back end where you need to connect to your MetaMask, and you can pay in a variety of different tokens. Just follow the instructions. You do have also the opportunity to pay using Visa and MasterCard, and you will also need to input a KYC or know your customer. And something that someone showed me the other day, if your country doesn't allow you into certain things, such as the Aether node sale or My Lovely Planet or something like that, and something you can do is to apply for a citizenship in this place called Palau, which is an island in the middle of the Pacific, and you can go to rns.id and look into this. I'm not advising that you do this. You really need to go and do some research into how this works, but it does seem to me to be completely legit. I'm from the UK, but I also have residency in Dubai and other places, and this might be a way for you to overcome some of the issues you're facing. Now, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Remember, stay calm, don't panic. You've got this. See you later. Bye-bye.